Sup, YouTube? Scrawny with the skinny. I'm in Copenhagen right now, checking in from a hotel room, but the fantasy season is well and truly alive, okay? We've started, the ball is rolling, and may I say, it's rolling quick. All right, first event of the season, the Blast Fall groups. We drafted the Goblins, the double vitality, double heroic. We wanted that sweet, sweet padding points. And I tell you what, boys, woo, a top 4%. This event isn't finished yet, but looking like a top 5 finish. Fingers crossed. You know, we'll see how these last few games go. I did originally have the Magisk Flamesy draft, which I think would have taken this even further. Maybe I could have finished 1%. I don't know. But you know me. I make those last second changes. I told y'all that I might switch in Zywoo. I did. I'm just happy that I made a change and I still finished, hopefully, within top 5. That means I put forward 2, not 1. That was 4. Not 1, but 2 great fantasy drafts to start the season. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling hot. Can I follow through with Cologne? We'll find out. There are 3 fantasy events for Cologne coming up. The play-in, the group stage, the playoffs. It's going to get crazy. That's a lot of CS, that's a lot of fantasy, and for 2 of those events, there is very little time to draft your team before it gets started, right? 24 hours or less between the play-in and the group stage, and then 48 hours between the group stage and the playoffs. So we got to make sure we get a good draft now for the play-in, okay? We want play-in points. I want them, I'm going to get them, I'm going to get them, they're mine. But Goblins paid off, all right? We've started strong. We don't have any leaderboard to go through just yet for the Celebrity League. Can't check that out as we don't know where everybody's at. I know of at least 5 people who are in the top 10% or more. That includes Lucy, that includes P2, myself, Harry Russell, and Machine. Congrats, Machine. Having a great first event. Maybe his best finish ever. We'll see where he ends up. I am posting a video as well on my YouTube for pickstop.gg. I'm going to go through my predictions for the bracket as I always do here, but if you guys want me to go in depth and down into the lower bracket, please take a second, go watch that video. It's sponsored by them. Content, moolah, you know how it goes. I'm still going to give you guys my rough thoughts, but that's like a 15-minute long video where all I do is talk about predictions and not actual fantasy. So, in the opening games, which are best of ones, and therefore 50% of points earned with the new fantasy formula, these best of ones aren't that important in terms of who will win, how much they may win, etc. It's just you got to get the win because if not, you're going down elimination, 2 best of 3s, and if you're the winner of this best of 3, then you get a 1 round of padding points. So I'm going to highlight who I think goes through as the first 4 qualified teams. I think Maus beat Mongols, Ninjas beat Into the Breach. 60-40 game to Maus in my mind. I think Shuhei's better than Dexter on an individual level. I think that Shuhei will get more out of Torzy than Dexter ever could because Shuhei knows how Torzy plays and how he came into the space and knows how to utilize him that much more. I'm just fingers crossed that Jimpat is going to take his Tier 1 debut on LAN and just run with it, man, because that kid could be something special. There's a little question on Maus. It's always a little sketchy when, this is a new roster. There's no Blast groups kind of data to work off of, but I do have Maus in high regards. They top this one. I expect Complexity to beat Fnatic because Fnatic is still a roster I struggle to believe in, and 9 will defeat OG because OG I'm so uninspired by this team. I'm sorry, Regali, you're not enough to carry it, and the organization simply hasn't given him anybody else to really bounce off of in terms of star potential. So between Complexity and 9, I'm actually going to pick 9. I kind of have 9 considered as my dark horse for the play-in stage. I think people are forgetting about how good they were throughout the first half of 2023. Yes, they've dipped in form, but they've already got some officials under their belt for this season of Counter-Strike, and they've gone pretty well. Hades isn't quite what he was during their peak, so hopefully he can get to that. And I'm fingers crossed that Kai can have a solid LAN event for once. He's somebody who in the online competition for 9 does very, very well, but then every time they get to LAN, including IEM Rio and the Blast Paris Major, there is a downtick in performance that I think ends up hurting him. Will Goofy or Kylar pick up the slack that he leaves? Maybe. Will Hades be enough to just win games? He has been in the past. So I'll say 9 over Complexity, But that, much like Maus and Ninjas, I think is a tough call to make, man. That's why I think the bottom half of this bracket and down into the lower side is still worth checking out on my other video for Pick Stop. Apex defeats Big. This is a Big that's warmed up, but Apex still has the majority of their core from the previous season. I don't think replacing JL is the biggest challenge, and Big is coming through with like a weird stand-in situation for Montu, who's been promising, kind of, at Blast. Liquid versus Astralis. Unfortunately, Stare isn't consistent enough for me right now to take that Astralis gamble. I think Liquid could lose to Astralis on their best day. Stare has shown us that he can compete with Device and Blame F as the highest performing player on this team, but it's his inconsistencies, bro. If he doesn't have 25 kills, Buddy's sitting at like 8 frags or less. So I'll go Liquid versus Apex in this one. And then I'm going to give it to Liquid. I like this formula. It looks like everybody has defined roles. I think that the talent acquisition here for Liquid, the talent scout, has done a really good job in picking up Rainwaker. It seems like exactly what they need in order to pull off what could be a great start to the season. And Liquid usually struggle at the start of seasons, so my God, I love it. Monty beat Imperial. Without FURIA at the helm here, I don't see, Imperial's win conditions. And then I say FURIA beat Greyhound. And then I say FURIA pretty easily dispatch of Monty. FURIA to me is actually one of the safest picks in terms of making it to the main event. Could Monty cause problems? Yes. I don't think losing Boros is the end of the world. It's definitely huge shoes to fill, but it's not the end of the world. You can still have like the Sumdai Young, Waro 2K, Demka core cause problems. We really don't know what FURIA are going to come in with. That's the uncertainty here of me, like banking on FURIA and Maus when we just haven't seen what they have to offer yet in these current states. So Maus, 9, Liquid, FURIA. These are the 4 teams that I want to flag as the safest bets for the play-in. Let's draft. With that in mind, okay, straight away, Liquid have had a huge uptick in price from this Blast groups until now. Everybody's sitting in the 2,000-somethings. Rainwaker's very consistent so far from what I've seen, but at 206, you know he's going to get out-fragged by the other 4 players, which is fine. They just need to win. They're not playing for fantasy. They're playing for victory. And that's a great formula, but I'm not going to draft Rainwaker. He's not the kind of inspiring stat farming player that we're looking for. Maus, okay, price tags here are nice. Torzi at 208. I mean, on a great day, Torzi is as good as Frozen. I think Frozen is still a bit too expensive for my liking. I think Shuhei and Torzi being that closely priced it's a bit challenging to separate the two, honestly. I know you can tap into the op prospect of Torzi, but I like Shuhei as a fragger as much as I do a caller. I'm going to skip a lot of this and go down to FURIA because I think this is where, the conversation really starts. Now, Queserado, $220,000, fair price for Queserado. If you pick him, I don't blame you. The Imperial guys come in at a very reasonable 200 and 198. Art, to me, we don't know how he's going to slot in, how FalleN's going to utilize him, if Art has to play a different style, or if Art's going to be used by FalleN the way Art likes to play himself. And that's a big question for me on an individual level from Art. I already tried to avoid Art when I drafted because he just dies a lot, and that negative rating never helps HLTV points. So, I'm picking Yuri. And then I'm going to take one of the Imperial guys. And at the end of this draft, I'll just get it out of the way. You'll have enough money for Cello or FalleN. It really boils down to what you want to go with. But what I like about Cello is that he is a good T-side player, and Yuri is a great CT side player. So I'm trying to tap into that hot and cold, that left and right, that yin and yang of this FURIA camp. And I'll take Yuri and Cello to begin. I think 200... 10, 200, very fair for a team that's got a pretty clean road straight to Cologne, right? You've got to beat Greyhound in a best of 1. You've got to beat Monty without Boros in a best of 3. Seems safe. After that, I'm going back to Maus, okay? Maus have to play versus Mongols and then Ninjas in Pajamas. Ninjas have been dropping games, incredibly inconsistent. Hampus can bottom frag, Config can bottom frag. If Head Trick doesn't drop 40 kills, I think Maus will definitely be competitive here. Now, Frozen has been outpriced, So I'm going to Exertion. I would love to take Jim Pat. I really hope this kid is the real deal, but his current cost is inflated because of the teams that he plays against, and we just don't know what he actually does versus Tier 1. Too much of a risk. I'm trying my best not to take risks. I got to take a step back. If I want to win this season, got to be smart. Exertion, not Jim Pat. Then I said Shuhei or Torsey, right? You could get an Opper for 2K less, and Torsey more likely to be set up to succeed than Shuhei. But in the off chance Torsey starts to have shortcomings and dies a lot, I've been burned by him in the past. I've also been burned by Yuri, but I'm letting that go because it's Yuri. Shuhei, he's my second pick. I'm going 2 FURIA, 2 Maus, and then I'm going to float for my eco choice. Now there's 3 players that jump off the page, okay? Hampus has had a $33,000 price increase, but we already knew that 153 was total bogus bullshit and that he should have been in the mid 180s, and now he is in the mid 180s, and I'm still going to consider him because he has yet to have a blowout map here at Blast. He hasn't been horrendous. For 186, it's a solid choice. His return to Tier 1 Counter-Strike is decent. I think Roy is another alternative pick, okay? I don't know where this roster stands, and unlike Maus or FURIA, I'm not looking at these changes and thinking, oh bro, this is great. I'm a little uninspired, and if you compare Roy's 1.14 rating in 2022 to his current 1.03 rating in 2023, Roy has to catch up to his previous self if he wants to impress anybody on this lineup, okay? Roy was the star of Fnatic, and Roy has had a fall off. At 185, I think he has the highest potential between the 3 players I'm going to highlight at this price range, but I also think he has the most uncertain team of the 3. So you've got Hampus on one hand, you've got Roy, and then Floppy, okay? Floppy, boys. Ooh, with Elige being a win condition in and of himself, I like where Complexity is at right now. Grimm's individual level has left some slack to be picked up, and I think Floppy is the guy who's slotting into that. Floppy also just doesn't die as often, you know. Floppy's a pretty reserved player. He's like a less successful Rainwaker in my mind right now. You know, good anchor, kind of lurking in the middle of the pack. You know, you never really know where Floppy is, but that's the beauty of it. He's not always dying, and when he is in the pocket, he's good for a multi-kill here and there. Do I believe in Complexity more than ninjas in pajamas? I think that's really where this question comes down to, and the answer is no. I think that there is a small chance ninjas actually get an upset versus Maus. I think there's less of a chance for Complexity to beat 9. I could very well be wrong about 9. I have this weird intuition. It's just, you know, I'm going to look back at this draft and either be very grateful that I avoided 9 or regret not going in with the double pick. So Yuri, Cello, Exertion, Shuhei, Hampus, boys. That's the merfolk, all right? Multi-fragger on Yuri, headshot Cello. The roll activation this week is through the roof, like mid-30s, 44. It all works out well. Support on Hampus is a bit of a question because his stats are still skewed, but I'm at like 25 points right now from him at Blast Groups. So, you know, Hampus, I chose him because he was cheap. He didn't let me down. I'm willing to give him another chance for this next event. That's the merfolk. But we always do other options, Scrawny. You're damn right we do. If you guys don't believe in this first draft, I present to you this one instead. Now, this is an upgrade over Exertion. You take FroZN, who has had a near mirrored statistical year to K-Serato. That's right, K-Serato, top 5 rifler in the world, and FroZN's almost right there with him statistically. And FroZN didn't get a chance to go pad his stats at the America's RMR event. So FroZN is a solid choice for this Maus team, especially considering their easier run. And if they do blow NIP out of the water, if there's a ton of stats coming on anybody of Maus, I feel like it will and could be FroZN. The cost of this draft, of course, is instead of getting FalleN, you take Art. Or instead of taking Cello, you get Art and keep FalleN. Again, FURIA is your open door, but I don't know, man. Art feels like a risky gamble to me, especially for somebody who dies a lot. And their games, you know, I feel like they'll still end up winning versus Greyhound and Monty, but I don't think Art's just gonna, you know, have this crazy pop-off game where he's getting multi-kill entries, etc. I don't know what Art's gonna do on this lineup. He's the biggest question on FURIA for me right now, and I don't want to personally take this gamble, but the fact that it allows you to afford FroZN kind of inspiring. And then a little extra chump change gets you from Hampus, Roy, Floppy to Kylar. Again, I think 9 have some potential here, and I think Kylar's been doing a good job of raising the floor, and when Kai falls off on LAN, Kylar doesn't. That's why, alternatively, this could be the draft I regret not making. It's the double FURIA, double 9 single mouse. So you lose Shuhei, but you get Kai and Kylar. Now this, with 2 players on 9, banks on them making the main event. All they have to do is defeat Complexity or Fnatic, because I think their win over OG is guaranteed. Hell, in fact, I think their win over OG could be a huge source of stats. It's only the best of 1. If that best of 1 ruling hadn't taken effect for this season of Fantasy, I would be more inclined to try and pick 9 because they may farm their opening BO1 and then win a best of 3 for padding. But I'm not really feeling it. I told you maybe I'd switch to ZywOo this week, and I did. I don't think I'm going to change from my original draft, but this is still Cello and FalleN with a double 9 pick instead of going in on Mouse. You still get exertion. That ain't half bad. It's the better half of the Mouse draft, but this is just needing 9 to qualify to Cologne. Something I think they will do regardless of whether they make it in the top 4 slots or the bottom 4 slots. I have faith in this team, but I don't have that much faith. And so it's the Merfolk. Fingers crossed, boys. We've got a lot of fantasy around the corner with Cologne. We've got pick stop prediction videos every step of the way as well. Make sure to go watch HLTV Fantasy Focus 2 because that's where you'll get all the updates on the leaderboards, etc., and some exclusive content. So thanks to you guys for watching. As always, Scrawny with the skinny. I'll see you guys next time.